Thank you.
Please.
Okay, Francesco asked me to speak about dry eye. I think for those that are familiar with this topic, I think the first talk, because I'm delivering two talks, and it's very basic. So sorry if it's basic about tear film and how to detect it. Okay, key points. Key points of the first talk. That's an overview of the dry eye disease and how we can enhance the tear film assessment. And also, I'm talking about the Dry Eye Report. We know that dry eye disease is a very big problem and unsolved problem still now, unsolved issue. Just a couple of things to highlight from this sentence, from this statement of the TIFOS. So it's a global problem, lots of people involved in this problem, and it's one of the most important and frequent causes of the patient visits. So it's something that brings people to clinicians. What's the prevalence of dry eye disease? I think it's very difficult to say. TIFOS went in deep in this kind of questions, and unfortunately, there is no precise answer. Because it depends on the definition of the dry eye disease, the population you are studying, and so on. So basically, the prevalence can be somewhere in this figure, very broad figure, between 5 and 50. And so the prevalence could be very high. What about the dry eye disease assessment? When I was younger, we always talk about two tests. So breakup time, Schirmer test. Now we have plenty of tests, starting from questionnaire, Schirmer test, Schirmer light tests, or dyes test, non-invasive breakup time, osmolarimetry, other dyes like listening green, and so on. So plenty of these. Unfortunately, the bad news is this one. So there is no gold standard available to make a diagnosis of dry eye disease. And that's a problem, because if you look at, this is the first paper of TIFOS, if you look at this sensitivity or specificity of all these tests, it's a mess. So some tests are good, some tests are less good, but there is no a single one that can allow us to make a diagnosis in this field. And I think because there is the dry eye disease is not a unidimensional condition. So it's what it's called a multifactorial condition. This is the whole definition of TIFOS. I wanna put I wanna highlight the second one, the most recent, 2017. This is the subcommission of TIFOS from led by Jennifer Craig. And if you see the dry eye is a multifactorial disease. And there are lots of things very important: loss of homeostasis, ocular symptoms, tear film instabilities, hyperosmolarity that was not mentioned in the whole definition of dry eye disease. So I think it's very important to look at what they deliver. So the James Wilson from Aston University led this subcommittee. So it is the way to diagnose the tear film disease, so the dry eye disease, sorry. And if you see what they highlight, there are some diagnostic tests, one of screening, symptomatology, and signs like tear non-invasive breakup time, osmolarimetry, ocular staining, ocular surface staining, that it's the problem that arises in the ocular surface. And also, we need to classify the problem. So there are lots of tests that can be done to make a proper diagnosis, and also to try to understand which kind of subtypes of classification of dry eye disease we are dealing with. So they highlighted the fact that there are some tests that are more appropriate to make a diagnosis, or to look at, or to deal with dry eye disease. For example, they have to cover different aspects. It's not possible to use just one. So we have to look at symptoms, visual disturbance, tear film stability, tear volume, tear composition, and so on. But also, they should be quantitative rather than qualitative. So the assessment should be quantitative, if possible, non-invasive instead of invasive. And that's why we are moving towards tests that are made in a more ecological, real condition. Also clinically performable. Some of these tests are not performable at all, and so we should use something that can be done by a clinician. And also something that could be automated. In my second talk, I'm talking about the automatic non-invasive breakup time, and one of the questions is it reliable or not? Is better the human clinician that can quantify the non-invasive breakup time, or the machine? Okay, second key points. What about sorry, it doesn't work. Let's have a look. Okay, what about the dry eye report? The dry eye report is something that you can find, for example, in the CSL machine. What it needs in terms of hardware, what it needs in terms of software. The hardware is very simple. It can be found in different machines. Usually, we need a placido disc-based topographer. So, for example, Antares, or the one that is inside the Cirrus Plus. That is a new different technology that incorporated a shuffle camera, but we need a placido disc topographer. The infrared light camera for the meibomian gland assessment, and moving lens that can allow us to make a photo of all the ocular surface, for example. The software is very simple. They implemented, for example, grading scales, and I will show you in a while what they did to allow the clinicians to make comparison with the grading scale of the surface condition. Okay, so if we look back at the, sorry, it doesn't work. Okay, if we look back at the, doesn't work. I don't know why. Okay, at the test that the Dry Eye Repor can make, we see lots of things. So ocular surface disease index, that is a very common questionnaire that you can use without or with the system. The ocular redness analysis, the meibomian gland analysis, the tear meniscus analysis, and so on. And it's quite simple. So you have like a traffic light system in which you can put your data, your outcome from the test, and the software can give you like a cutoff if this test is considered good or not. And so the clinician, the ophthalmologist that, for example, make the diagnosis of dry eye disease can make a decision if this is a condition potentially dry eye or not. If we look at what the Dry Eye Report does, we find that it can answer exactly to all the stuff that the TIFOS diagnosis report suggested to do. So look at symptomatology, look at non-invasive breakup time, and in fact, it can perform it. Looking at osmolarimetry, actually, the system does not perform an osmolarimetry, but you can get with another instrument and put inside the instrument the outcome. You can assess the ocular redness. You can assess the tear meniscus age, measure the tear meniscus age, and finally you can have a look at the meibomian gland dysfunction, so the vitality of the glands. Let's have a look at one of those. It's a brief overview. I think you are familiar with this. The OSTI, I think, is the most common questionnaire to assess the dry eye. And it's very common in every language, even though you should, I don't know, you come from every part of the world. For example, in Italy, has not been validated. So there is not a validated version of it. But it's very simple to find it, and lots of questions, 12, for precisely 12, and you can get information about frequency of symptoms and so on. Once you get this information, that you can put in the system. And so the system collects this first information about symptoms. Okay, again, it's quite slower than me, come on. Okay, we know the criteria for the diagnosis over the screening, and so the dry report give us, once we put inside the scoring of the questionnaire, if the traffic light is red or not. What about the input? I'm talking in deep about the non-invasive breakup time in the second talk, presenting to you some data, some experimental data, very interesting from my position. And but just to be very quick, what we can do is to assess the breakup time in an automated manner, in a very interesting way, because what we did before, I came from control lenses field as well, what we did before, what take the first breakup time, we also use, for example, the device to measure the first breakup, not, for example, when you use contact lenses, and we call it not non-invasive breakup time, but non-invasive dry up time, to have a look what happened in terms of wettability on the lens surface. But in any case, the instrument can allow you to measure automatically this kind of stuff. We know that the non-invasive breakup time is longer than the fluorescent breakup time, so the invasive breakup time. But I will show you in details more experimental data. So again, osmolarimetry. Okay. Oh, sorry, that's a very brief video, but you know very well what the instrument does. And it's very interesting because the instrument provides us the first breakup, that is this one, should be this one. This is the first break. But what I find interesting is the, for example, the map, the breakup map, because the instrument, through an algorithm, very sophisticated, it can detect change in the keratoscopic image, and for single piece of the keratoscopic reflexive from the tear film, and basically it divides in tails, in little tails, the corneal surface, and it can allow you to measure in each tail the breakout. And so you can reconstruct a different, not only the first breakup time, but also a breakup time that is topographically provided to the operator. Okay, bulbar redness, very simple. You can get an image of the eye, and you can compare this image, for example, for bulbar redness, which a grading scale very common. We call it. Sorry, it doesn't work. Okay, maybe in this way. Okay. This is very common. This is the Efron grading scale made by Nathan Efron in 1998 for the first time, and it can allow you to have a look if there is a change in the ocular redness. So once again, you put the information, you grade the bulbar redness, and you put in the information inside the system. Tear meniscosate, this is another device, very simple, can allow you to measure the age of the inferior, the lower meniscus of tear, and you can measure in different positions. For example, we took lots of data, and I'm not showing you this data, but you can measure in different positions. They are quite consistent, and the position seems not to be related to the condition, but the most important one is the central one, this one. Okay, again. So finally, we are looking at the division in types of dry eye. So the tear meniscosate can allow us to see if there is deficiency in terms of aqueous of volume. But the other point is there a problem with the meibomian gland? And through mammography, we can check if there is a problem in terms of depth of glands, and so we can have a percentage of vital of good glands or not, and we can make it on the lower lid, on the upper lid. Once again, in this case, we can have a double instrument. One is you can quantify exactly the glands that are working, or you can make a comparison, a grading with a pooled grading scale that is quite famous in the field. So to conclude, and I'm coming back in a while with data about non-invasive backup time. So dry eye disease is a very big problem, lots of people. We need to enhance the dry eye assessment, and so we need to perform a battery of tests instead of just one test. It's impossible to make a diagnosis just with one test. So the Dry Eye Report, and there are lots of these instruments on the market, can allow us to perform this battery in an easier way with automatic systems sometimes, and in order to allow us a better diagnosis and management of the dry eye disease. Thank you.